Hey guys, welcome back for another episode of Pro 632 Radio. If you haven't heard, PDRA has secured a sponsorship for the Pro 632 class via Mark Williams with Doug Cook. Hey, sir, welcome to the show. Please give us some background of you and everything you do.
Thanks, I appreciate it. I'm pretty excited about this. I've been a fan of PDRA for a while, but some people may or may not know, but Motion Raceworks, the company I started in my basement about 10 years ago, we bought Mark Williams in October of this year. And, this is really my baby right now. I've spent a lot of time working with these guys. And, Motion started, like I said, officially started about 10 years ago. I quit my job and just went all in on that company. And we started as a little speed shop that made a couple of products and building them out of my basement and my garage and all that stuff and shipping it. And then over the years, we just kept, recycling the money, I guess you would call it, reinvesting it. So putting it right back in and just continuing to make products. And not to get too long-winded, but we bought TBM brakes in 2021, I believe. And then at the same time, we bought Rife sensors out of California, moved them to Bradenton, Florida. Spent a couple years really growing that, and then we bought R&R oil pumps, R&R connecting rods. They had an oil pump division that they were done with, and then we kind of turned that into a company we now call Fluid Works, which has evolved from oil pumps. We then got into fuel filters and fuel regulators that we spent a lot of time developing. Started making fittings and all that stuff. We're getting ready to release our new line of billet pans that have pumps attached to them, and even fuel. We're actually getting ready to launch our new mechanical fuel pumps in the next couple of weeks. And then, like I said, in October, we bought Mark Williams. It was a company that I'd run on all my race cars over the last, decade or so and liked their product. And somehow we got paired up with Mark Williams, the original founder, who'd been running it since 1964. And it was just a good fit for us, kind of the next progression and trying to have more solutions under the Motion Raceworks umbrella. And, here we are. So it's been a pretty wild 10 years.
That's a lot.
Feels like 25, but it's been 10 years with a lot of hours in them. So,
all right. It goes by.
So you referenced that TBM, the Brakeman company, is housed in Bradenton, Florida now. At what point in your career did you move your operations to Florida?
We bought them in, I think we bought them in, it must have been August or September 21. We knew we didn't want to be in California. We wanted to be closer to racing for development and just support and all that stuff. So we moved them in January of 22. When we bought TBM, they were actually right across the street from Willwood and some other companies, and there was a lot of job shops. So they actually didn't make any of the parts in-house. They just farmed them out. So when they showed up, I unloaded the 48-foot semi by myself. And I was like, oh, this is all we got, and they had no machines or anything like that. So we stood up a machine shop and pretty much make every part from scratch in-house now down in Bradenton. So that's been a fun venture.
So that was really just a drop shipping type. Hey, we designed it. Somebody else printed it for us.
Yeah, they had all the parts machined. Obviously, they had the drawings and they designed all the parts, and then they assembled them, tested them, and shipped them. So taking it to the next level and just manufacturing it from in-house was quite the undertaking. But we just started buying machines and bought more machines over time and assembled a crew, and we got a pretty good one now down there.
How big is the facility in Bradenton?
It's actually fairly small. So when it was really bad timing that we were going to move to Florida because it was right during that boom of housing down there in Florida during COVID. I'd been down there this summer before, or like when we were buying it. I'm like, oh man, they got all kinds of buildings. We got money saved up. We're going to buy a building. Come October, when I started actually getting serious about procuring a building, they didn't have one. So we got this 8,000 square foot building. And we move a lot of brakes out of that little building, but it was kind of cool because it taught us it basically required us to start learning how to use robots so we could produce 24/7, which then increases, it makes it like a 20,000 square foot building because you're doing 3 times the work out of the same building. So, it was good and bad. It taught us to be a lot better at manufacturing and utilizing the space we had.
How many employees you have there?
There's about 15 there at that building. So we've got a pretty good staff down there. So yeah, it's been that kind of taught us, hey man, we can take a product that's good and just needs some help and take it to the next level. One of the interesting things about TBM is they had a really good caliper. They had a good rotor, but then we started introducing into other markets. So we had to develop new rotors and redesign some of the stuff and repurpose it. And by the time we were done, I would say we're kind of on a good trajectory now within the last year as far as like having a handle on it all. But we pretty much touched every part, redesigned, redrew, repurposed. And so it wasn't as easy as, buy a company, turn the key and keep running it and grow it. It was almost starting from scratch with a little bit of an idea of what we were doing.
What about the TBM system makes the car push so easy? Is what floats so well to free up any of that drag that we noticed out of that brake system?
The caliper is really a lot of the magic in it. The caliper and the rotor combo kind of together, but it's a substantially stronger caliper than what you see in a lot of stuff that's out there. So that and the fluid design. So over time, what causes a lot of calipers to seize up is they're really flimsy. So they'll flex in the material they're made out of and all that stuff. And then the pistons are trying to push out at weird angles. So they may not have even been good to start with, but then if they don't have a strong enough caliper, it just gets worse and worse and worse. And as rotors warp, then you're working against a warp rotor. So it's kind of a little bit of both, and there's definitely a science in it. And what's interesting is Mark Williams kind of had a similar, specialty and all that. So now we have two companies that make brakes that are really good at that. I wasn't really after the brakes, but now we kind of have two of the really good ones out there. So
our show is basically based on PDRA and the Pro 632 category. I mean, your product line under the Motion umbrella checks a lot of boxes for us as racers. Tell us a little bit more about Rife sensors and how they interact with some of the other operating systems for ECUs to data acquisition, and how that stuff would interchange with maybe some existing stuff.
Yeah. So when we bought TBM, the same company owned TBM and Rife, and they had those like blocks that you may see. And I'd been running them for a couple of years before that. And what I noticed was, number one, they're really easy to wire because they share the power and grounds are split internally and all that stuff. But then I was like, man, these things are damn near bulletproof. So that was really the technology we got from that. And we kind of started to realize, like, hey, if we're going to sell this, we need to have, shock sensors. So I guess we did buy another company. We bought G-Spot shock sensors. They made a really good shock sensor that was durable. And then we made a bunch of different variations that they didn't have. And then temperature sensors. And then we took it into, how do we make it easier to use? So in the last couple of years, we've made breakout boxes. In the last year, we made a 5-volt box, which actually has protection, has individual circuits, so that you can divide your car out, so if you're running the ECU and you have your map sensor and your fuel pressure and your crank sensor and cam sensor, those are your mission critical sensors. So we had this idea to make a box that you could run them through. That way, like, a shock sensor, there's a million ways to break them just because of how violent everything is, and pulling the car apart, like when it's on the jacks, or pulling the shock sensor apart when it's on the jacks and all that different stuff. But that box really kind of simplifies wiring and gives you a more durable car, system, I guess you would call it, so that the engine can keep functioning. You don't always have to have shock sensor data to finish a pass and stuff like that. And then the last year, we also redesigned our drive shaft sensor. So we developed a really badass drive shaft sensor that creates a better signal. And then we just released crank sensors that kind of came from that technology. We just released a G meter. So it's really kind of spawned into a whole car's worth of sensors that we can pretty much have functionality for. And we hired Brett LaSala to manage that whole category. He's really good with electronics. So he's spent a lot of time creating instructions and technical support for, Holley and Fuel Tech and Motec and all that stuff. And then we recently started doing a lot more race pack stuff. So now we have a VNet cable that will interface with not only our blocks, but those 5-volt boxes and stuff. So we've kind of created a whole system solution. Like you buy an ECU and we can finish the rest with a really good sensor package.
And you guys, so it would be safe to say that your sensor can interchange with anybody's existing stuff, whether it was a Holley race pack or anything of that nature, that you have an offering for replacement sensors?
Yeah. So, a lot of people overcomplicate sensors, but we've created some good technical documents. Essentially there's 0 to 5 or 0.45 to 4.5 with calibration. We have a really accurate sensor that we can pretty much interface with anything. And that's what we're spending a lot of time on now is, number one, making cars easier to wire. Number two, making a full package for people. And then, having support with it. And we spent a lot of time in the last 2 or 3 years on the Shadow on Stevie Jackson's car, just torture testing this stuff. And we're like, all right, if it'll live in a screw blower environment, it's probably going to live in about anything. And, seeing that stuff in the winter circle has been pretty cool. So down to Mountain Motor Pro stock guys are starting to pick up on it and realize, hey, this is a lot easier, solution for it. So yeah, if you have a data logger or an ECU, we got the rest of everything you need to, run your car with it.
Excellent. Go ahead, Jason.
Just a quick question. So if you have an existing race pack, as most of us do in 632, can your shock sensor go right to it?
Yep. So that's what we're actually getting ready to release, a race pack shock sensor package. And what's nice about that is we have that VNet module, so we can pretty much give you everything to plug and play it.
Okay.
And it saves you a good amount of money doing it, quite frankly, because, you run one of our VNet cables to our pressure block, or we have that breakout box. Like I said, you don't have to buy all the individual VNets. You can just run them to those and then run 4 sensors off of it. So it's pretty cost effective in terms of, in addition to being, what I feel is a better sensor package. So.
Okay.
Nice thing is, we're at a lot of races now, so we have our support trailer. So we always have sensors on site, and, somebody wants to change something or replace something, we have what you need usually.
Will you have a support trailer at the PDR races this year?
Yeah, we're working on getting to a handful of them this year. My goal would be to get to all of them. So, but we've done a lot of the Winter Series stuff and all that, which I think you guys in the past used to run 632, but we're working on some of the other stuff. So,
excellent. That being said, moving on to FluidWorks, that's a company that I'm somewhat familiar with in its past tense. When it was with R&R, I've used some of their pumps. And they had some good varieties for some counter rotation stuff and things like that we've ran some cam driven pumps. Have you guys, since the acquisition of that company, changed anything with the design, or are you adding part numbers, or where are you going with that existing offering platform?
Yeah, so they had like you said, a really good pump. It's a spur gear pump, so it's really durable. We actually just had it on Jeff Pierce's Pro Mod this last weekend. So basically what we took was a really good design, learned how to make it, because that stuff is fairly complicated to make. But then also Mike was building those all one by one. He'd get an order, he'd go out and make the shafts, he'd have the housings, but we're trying to make it more readily available. So we have everything ready to go. I think we have 196 unique combinations. So single stage to 7 stage, we have 1 inch, 1 3/8, and 2 inch sections. And then, like I said, we have them anywhere from bolt on to your LS engine all the way to a Noonan, 4.9 deal and everything in between. So yeah, we've really just kind of expanded what it can be used on.
And you referenced earlier that you're making a pan with an integral pump, and I would assume internal manifold for the scavenge sections. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so all of our dry sump stuff is internally manifolded. You can, of course, run individual fittings out of it if you want to for just more scavenging, but the pan mount stuff is kind of something we needed. I wanted out of necessity, just running. I have a Nova with a late model LT engine, and I was like, it'd be sure nice to get rid of all these hoses for serviceability and all that. So we've last year and a half we've been testing pan mount stuff, and So we'll have those for most of the modern late model platforms, and then the goal would be to start servicing, the big block and Hemi stuff in the future after that. So it's a pretty exciting deal for us just to be able to offer a full solution for people.
Yeah, that's excellent. I'm really excited about what you've brought to the area too. I'm a Central Florida based company as well, and I'll tell you what, the car culture is really good here, and I'm really excited to see what you guys are doing. That being said, Mark Williams is still based out of Colorado, or are you guys moving that to Florida as well?
No, so our main facility is in Iowa. So Motion's kind of like the mothership. I mean, it's substantially bigger than Mark Williams in Florida and TBM in Florida. We really just wanted to get closer to the racer. So we do a lot of like stuff out of TBM for Motion and Rife and all that stuff. But after buying Mark Williams and spending some time here, like, number one, they have great employees. These guys are just excellent machinists. They know the stuff inside and out. And then one of the unique things about Mark Williams is if you walk through here, they do stuff from start to finish. So they get raw material in, raw forgings, and when it comes out of here, it's heat treated, plated. We have in-house heat treating, all the equipment stuff, and then we do our own plating. So it would be a bear of a company to move. And right now, it's just, since we bought it in October, it's just exploded. So for our, short and medium term horizon, I can't see moving it. They got a really good operation, and what's really cool is we were able to say, like, reintroduce it back into the market, especially like some of the small tire stuff. They hadn't been advertising a lot, so it's amazing how quickly people forget. But now that it's back, people are like, man, this stuff's really good. Like, yeah, it's always been really good, but we're here to support it and try to just keep making good products and just get it back into people's hands and be at races and have parts, when people need them and stuff. So.
Yeah, it's awesome to see a young guy like yourself breathe some life into these companies. A lot of them are just timing out. They've been established for 40, 50 years, and ownership doesn't have a succession plan. And a lot of them, like in my line of work, BHJ, they were a huge supplier for tooling and things like that. They just went out of business and left a hole in our market. So I applaud you for continuing on the legacy of some of these existing companies and carrying them on in the future and making some improvements and updates. That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, Mark Williams it was a no-brainer for me. I mean, he was 84, and he was, till the day we signed the deal, the night before, he was working till 7:30 at night. He just didn't know how to quit and when to quit. So it was a good transition for us to be able to come in.
That's excellent. What was your attraction to get involved this year with PDRA? We welcome it and don't question it at all. Just, we know what attracts us to PDRA. What attracted you over that direction?
Probably the same things that attract you guys. We dipped our toes in working with those guys last year. Just, the Franklins are a great family, and I think what they provide is a grassroots place, and everybody that is there and comes out of there is like, man, you got to go there. You got to go there. It's, the racing's good. They're focused on the racer. The racing is competitive. So, bringing on Mark Williams and all that stuff, I'm like, that's where we need to be. I obviously support all different types of racing organizations, but I'm like, we have to get involved with them. And I'm actually probably going to end up racing Pro Street in the next year or so. I'm building a car, and I'm like, they're just great. It's easy to support them because of what they're doing. Everybody's there and everybody's happy, and so it just fits well with our culture too.
There's a lot of.
How many classes are you supporting at PDRA?
So we jumped on with obviously 632, and then Top Dragster. They were looking for sponsorship, and we have a lot of good products for them. So TBM jumped on with Top Dragster. So 2 this year. Like I said, I'm looking forward to it across the board, and front to back at that organization, there's people that run all of our different families of products. So I figured that was a good foot in the door and keeping that stuff going.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of parallels between your company and PDRA, between, just a real reliable product and, level of professionalism, and everything seems to be, really well ran. I'm a big fan of your umbrella of companies as well as the PDRA. moving forward, you mentioned yourself maybe getting some involvement. Could we also maybe see Brett come over and run a little bit with us, or
Potentially.
Stevie show up time to time again with some of, your guys that are either, sponsored, involved, or employed under your umbrella? I'd love to see some of those guys come out.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I'm hoping in the next 6 months or year, my life smooths out a little bit to the point where I can enjoy racing again. When I started Motion, I actually had an Ultra Street car that I'd built, and I was racing, and it kind of hit a crossroads where I was like, all right, dude, you're gonna have to choose a path, one or the other, if you want to make parts or want to race. So I took some time off, and I've had a couple drag and drive cars that I've done just because it fit well. I could just show up, once or twice a year. But like I said, I'm ready to get more serious. I know Stevie's got Tim Papp and Fletcher. He helps out, and
Yes.
Mikey Cecina over in Pro Street. So I'm sure you'll see more of those guys. And I have a feeling Brett's doing LDR this year. He's really hot on wanting to win a championship in LDR. But me and him kind of go to races together, and I'm going to build probably a screw blower or roots car. And I think once he sees it, he'll probably like it too. So it'll be easier for us to be in one place. But that guy just never stops working. So I could see him running LDR and PDRA if I was being honest. He's actually literally this week changing his car back to quarter mile to go race Texas 2K. So I wouldn't rule any of it out. Wow.
I think you're going to have to rename it to Commotion Raceworks. You guys got a lot going on.
Yeah, that's honestly one of the reasons why I picked up Mark Williams, because since we brought on TBM, we've honestly been collecting good people. Like a TBM, I can just not show up there for a month, and it just keeps pumping forward because of the guys we have there. And like I said, Brett's running Rife for the most part, and the Motion team, we got 50 employees up in Iowa that are just ripping all the time with, like I said, the Fluid Works and the Motion products. So it's nice it seems like I'm doing a lot, but I try to tell people all the time, I feel like I have the least to do with anything. I'm just making decisions and trying to steer everything in the right direction, which I think is probably our strong point at this juncture.
Now, I understand that Mark Williams is new to you since October, but do you have any new offerings from a product lineup that you have coming down the pipe?
Yeah, actually, literally right before this, they've had, like I mentioned earlier, they've had good brakes, but they had a cast caliper. They did some casting in house and outside, and we were wanting. A lot of people in sportsman racing love their brakes, so we actually just redesigned their caliper. We have a new 7075 billet aluminum caliper that's getting ready to release, and then from there, the rear end stuff. They're modular, which a lot of guys in 632 and all different stuff run. We're kind of reviving their modular platform in terms of we're building new brackets with more, 4-link holes and wishbone locations and, reverse shock mounts that are adjustable and stuff like that. So we're kind of building off of a lot of their platforms they already had. And then in addition to that, what's kind of crazy is like if you walk through Mark Williams, or when I walked through Mark Williams when I bought it, I'm like, I've never seen that product before. They're like, yeah, we built it. We never released it. So they had a whole slew of stuff that, they just never released. So we're testing a lot of that stuff heavily, just trying to get it. A lot of it's pretty cool technology. We're just getting it ready to release. So we're just trying to, my main concern when I buy a company, and especially being, a younger guy, everybody's like, they ruined it. Like when we bought it and we announced it, everybody's like, oh, good, it's not going to be the same. I'm like, no, it's going to be the same and better, because we're going to just bring new technology and new ideas. So we're just really careful to make sure everything would, make Mark proud when we release it, basically at that point. So I would say we're a few months out from really starting to pump some new stuff out.
Let's talk technical stuff a little bit on the Mark Williams side. Some stuff with ours in 632 where we're limited on cubic inch and nitrous and things like that. We're really kind of a moderate horsepower category. So we always are looking elsewhere to find performance in the car outside of the engine. Tell us a little bit about what you guys have for offerings for, say, reduced resistance in the third member, or gun drilled axles, lightened ring and pinions. I know in the past I had some 500-inch NHRA involvement, and we'd run a titanium spool, things of that nature. What do you guys have that, maybe some of our competitors aren't aware of that could maybe add some performance to their car outside of just, pure power?
Yeah, that was kind of the interesting thing with Mark Williams, kind of going along with the parts that nobody ever saw or got released, but they kind of had like a secret menu, and some people knew about
aluminum spools and
yeah, like I mean,
medium pinion gears.
I've tested our aluminum spools in like 2,500 horsepower cars, and like that was again one of the things that drew me to Mark Williams. When you kind of, and I'm working on it on a customer facing level, is like, how do I teach people what we have? But I've tested this stuff on bigger power cars and stuff, and you're like, when you hold our aluminum spool, aluminum yoke third member, you're like, holy shit! Like, put it up in the car with one hand, and I would say we probably have arguably one of the best third member guys in the world here. His name's Brad, and you guys have experienced it, but down to stock, super stock, like they're the same way, looking for every ounce of everything because they're power limited. So you spin our stuff, and it's we have rem polishing, we have cryo treatment in house, we have ring gear lightning, we have all different types of ring and pinions. They haven't made the titanium spools for quite a while, but it's something we're looking at bringing back. But the aluminum stuff is pretty badass and quite strong. So that, and then down to like our aluminum drive shafts, just bringing that back to people. Like, a lot of people don't realize those aluminum drive shafts are actually lighter than a lot of carbon drive shafts and stronger. So trying to reintroduce that into the world. And we make carbon, but there's a lot of titanium parts that we make and stuff like that. So I actually build all of our own websites for Motion, TBM, Motion, and Mark Williams, and maintain them and all that myself. That's kind of like what I am passionate about. So trying to make that available on the website so you can just click an order and not have to know somebody or call in and ask about it is really one of my new things that I'm working on.
Excellent. Now, you guys offer some ceramic bearings and things of that nature.
We do
for the third members.
Yeah, we do. We have, on our pinion supports, that's another, one of the secret magics of Mark Williams. Our pinion supports are phenomenal, and that's why most people use them, whether than a different billet case than what we make and stuff. And but we have, dual ball bearing, and we have, tapered ball bearing options. We have ceramic bearing options for, the spool bearings and the pinion supports and all that stuff. And there's cases where they should and shouldn't be used, but we have a good team of people here that you call in, they'll tell you, here's my use case, give you a good recommendation. But even down to our, tapered stuff, so tolerances and the finishes we have, they spin pretty freely, which is worth some good horsepower.
Sure. Now, you made mention of the aluminum drive shaft earlier about the strength and weight versus carbon fiber. Now, talking about weight and rotating mass and things of that nature, gun drilling and axle in our category, it's always been told to me that it makes it stronger. Can you elaborate on that a bit?
I think that's kind of a wives' tale. It doesn't necessarily make it stronger, but a lot of times, like, our 300M axles are so strong that a lot of times you're more than good with it. I definitely seen a rumor out there. It makes it stronger. It actually weakens it. But the strength of our 300M axles and the way we heat treat them allows us to do that. And really not, even pro mod cars have, gun drilled axles. And we do offer a wide variety of different gun drill sizes. So we can really tailor it to what the power level it's at, and we kind of have a really good I would say chemistry on that. It's funny, I'm actually at Mark Williams this week, and we were looking at processes because we're starting to ramp up and how do we speed things up, and we're like, well, do we really need all these gun drill sizes? And we had one that was an axle. We moved up to the next, I think it was 7, and it was another 16-inch gun drill, and you'd be surprised how much weight that pulls out of it from one side to the other. And they just have some really cool technology with that. And then we recently just made available our one-piece axles for Mark Williams. That was something that I know they've been doing in Top Fuel and stuff for a while, but wide rear ends like we run in door cars and stuff wasn't really readily available. So now we can do almost a 43, I think it's like 42.5-inch side to side. And guys like Marty Marilat and stuff have been starting to mess with them. And they're like, I can't believe how much this is just anecdotal, of course. They're like, it makes a huge difference in terms of the rear steer and everything. So
Yeah, like the Chris, I'm familiar with like a Chrisman, and they had a live axle, one piece axle in theirs, and we'd have to run like zero rear steer in those cars when running that. And it was phenomenal. Like it was one of those things that you had to see it to believe it. It's really a neat concept.
yeah, and it, like I said, they have such unique equipment here at Mark Williams that, you know, we're able to do stuff like that nobody else can do, and those widths and stuff like that. So, but again, I'm hesitant to preach too much about it or tout our horn too much about it because it is an anecdotal thing. I don't know how we prove it otherwise. You know, It's hard to simulate a car, but once you have it in there, you're like, that's pretty nice.
Well, I'll do it a little bit for you. Back in the mid 2000s, we had a Vanishing Point built us an Outlaw 10.5 car, and it had 11-inch Mark Williams in the rear with an oil pump on it and all that kind of stuff. And over the 5 seasons that we ran that car, we never put a ring and pinion in it. And that was 3,000 pound car. Back then we would go 420s with a nitrous engine, and never once put a ring and pinion in it. We sold it to a doctor up in the Northeast, and we put a turbo engine in it, and who knows, it might even still have that same ring and pinion in there. But it was a little bit hefty on the front side, but man, it earned its money over time for sure. It was phenomenal.
Yeah, it's that's a good piece.
It really is.
Other than that, so what? As far as being a sponsor, kind of going to put you on a spot here. What would you like to see from us racers in the class that you're sponsoring?
You know, I might have a different view than a lot of people, but most of the time when I do a sponsorship, I just want to see the class do well. You know, we're doing the winter series and stuff, like the Tech Shack will call me, we're out of your stickers, you know, and this guy's not running a sticker. I'm like, I don't really care, man. Like I may be giving up something, but I honestly just love to see, you know, I think people understand that we're behind them. You know, if they run our stickers on the car, cool. If we can help you guys out with parts, that's cool. But honestly, just us being, you know, front to back at Motion, I would say 80% of our employees are racers. So we're just as proud to see, you know, our name come across the screen as anybody. And, you know, we're here for the racing, honestly. I don't mean to sound too cheesy, but I don't get too caught up in that. You know, if you 632 guys are, you know, needing a ring and pinion, or you're needing a yoke or a whole rear end or brakes, whatever, if you think about us, that's pretty much all we ask for, you know. Our goal is that it works out for everybody. You know, you guys buy parts from us, we come back and everybody's happy, and that's really all I care about. So,
No,
you know,
I understand that. I mean, it's just a question out there because, you know, you're spending a lot of money on us, and we all greatly appreciate it. And
Absolutely.
yeah, you know what I mean. And it's to have a good sponsor to back the class means a lot for all of us. I mean, we were, you know, every week we're on here going, hey, we still need a sponsor. I'd be like, Tyler, we find somebody yet? No, we ain't. I'm like, we're like 3 weeks away. We got to find, you know what I mean? What do we got to do? And we actually, as a group, came up with a number what it was going to cost us.
Yeah.
Each to self-support if we had to. And there's a lot of good racers in this class. There's a lot. I mean, JC Beatty, there's just a great group of people, because JC was like, all right, I mean, I'm in for this much money. And I'm like, okay, you know, and it got down to in conversation. I think Chris wasn't really on him, but you're putting a number out there as a racer that you want to help out, but you don't want to, you know, screw yourself either. Go, all right, I'm in for 5. Oh shit, he's at 5. Man, I can't swing 5. I only got 2. You know what I mean? And so, you know, but we were willing to do it, you know, as a group, just to keep it going. We think the class has grown a lot over the year, from last year to this year. I would like to think the awareness that we're bringing to the class is helping.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
you brought up a good point. Like, I see JC's name come across our orders all the time, and you know, I see a lot of your customers or a lot of your racers that already have our stuff. So, you know, in a way, thanking as much as it is anything. Not necessarily asking, but like you said, I hate to see somebody have to spend money to then go race to spend more money. So it's it just makes sense.
Well, I was really pumped when I saw that you guys came on too, because it was something that could be utilized in the category. Nothing could have been worse than having somebody sponsor the category that we can't even really utilize, or they're not getting return on their investment for it. Mark Williams, I was like super excited because I'm like, good, there's something that fits what we do. It's a real integral, component of a lot of these cars that we already have and use. And it just made sense in my eyes. And, thanks again. I was really excited to have you come aboard.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, like anywhere I go to sponsor, I try to make it something I want to continue to sponsor, because there and gone isn't good for the class. It's not good for the company. It's not good for the racers. So, yeah.
No, and we had several. I mean, Chris, Mr. Holdoff, he sponsored for a bit there, and
Yeah, Dave Swallow, Chris Holdorf. We've had a bunch of guys that have chipped in and self-sponsored the class to keep it rolling and things like that. And,
Mr. O'Brien.
This is excellent to have your support. So we applaud you, and we're going to hope put a little pressure on these racers to support you and your umbrella of companies for, and return the favor.
Yeah, for sure.
So what's on the horizon for you, Doug?
Yeah, what's next?
Racing. Like I said,
good for you.
I mentioned earlier, we're actually getting ready to release our new mechanical fuel pump line. We spent about a little over 2 years working on it, and we developed our own flow bench with fuel flow, meters and all that stuff, and just really tried to perfect a mechanical fuel pump. So I'm pretty excited about that. And honestly, with all of our companies and all the stuff we have going on now, especially Mark Williams, spend a lot of time on it. I just want to let these things all flourish, and then hopefully at some point get back to racing myself.
All right. We all us businessmen have that kind of dream.
That's the utopia, right? But I mean, it's at least a goal anyways. So,
right.
But like I said, we probably spend too much money on development. A lot of our products, good or bad right now, are 1 to 3 years in development in some way or another. So we have, over the next year with all of our companies, we have some pretty awesome stuff that is going to really revolutionize racing and how you build a car and stuff like that. So just going to try and focus on that. And I mean, if another opportunity arises, cool. But we get calls every day to buy people's, companies that people are ready to retire. We're keeping our ears to the ground, but we're going to focus on what we're.
That's the blessing and the curse. It seems like perfection has no finish line. So you develop, and you're like, dang, we eventually got to bring this thing to market to get some return here. So I absolutely know what you mean.
That's what me and Stevie Jackson talk about it daily. I'm like, I'm okay being broke. I've been broke my whole last 10 years. So right now, I don't even know what's on the other side. I'll just keep doing it until I get tired. But right now, we're not really tired.
Excellent.
Good at being broke.
We know how to manage it and live in it. I tell everybody I live like a college kid, so I don't have a lot of expensive taste outside of race cars.
That's the only one you need, honestly.
Yeah,
that'll do it.
Yep.
Troy Russell's asking if you will be at Darlington.
When is that? My schedule is just
2 weeks.
2 weeks. I might try and swing up there. There was supposed to be the radial race at Rockingham this weekend actually, but I've got a pretty open next few weeks, so I might try and stroll up there.
It's the 26th.
26. Okay. I'll have to ask my wife, but I'm like I said, I'd like to make it, and I'd like to definitely make it to either Galat or you guys still running at Galat this year?
Yes,
we are.
Yes.
I have a really hard time. It's kind of been crazy in the last year, like with the IHRA and NHRA and all the radial stuff and pro mod stuff. It's like, I think I've been at a race the last probably 8 of the last 10 weekends, it seems like. So
living at the racetrack, right?
Which I don't hate. But I will probably post up, a lot of those East Coast races. Like I said, we're based out of Bradenton with TBM, and we keep our support trailer there for a lot of our companies. So I'm going to try and make it some of those East Coast races, which I know is basically all of the PDRA stuff. So.
And I'm sure with PDRA, I'm sure if you needed to, you probably could set up in somebody's trailer. And
Yeah.
haul stuff to and from. Patrick does it with FTI.
Okay.
He has a little FTI transmission kit in his trailer for anybody, for an FTI customer. So I'm sure somebody be there willing to do it and help you out with it, and that way you have stuff there if you can't get a trailer there.
Yeah, for sure. No, I definitely appreciate that.
It's a different group of people. That's for sure. We lost Mountain Motor Pro Stock, and there's a lot of good guys that we're not going to race with anymore because they're going to IHRA. But and Patrick's guy, actually Jordan, runs Mountain Motor Pro Stock. So now Patrick's coming in my trailer, so
Okay.
I'll be taking Patrick's stuff back and forth and for the season. But there's just a lot of good people trustworthy people. You can give what you got to give, and they'll work with you on it. You know what I mean? To get it sold or help other racers out. And Braille Battery, she knows. Heather knows who has spare batteries and chargers in trailers. So if you call
not doing it anymore.
go see Jason. Go see because I keep spares. Alan O'Brien keeps spares. I have a charger. He's got chargers. So she'll just direct people there. And then we have to take care of it with her. And she'll just send us another one. You know what I mean? So we just swap it out. They pay her, Braille directly and it goes from there. So, we all do it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So that's an option if you don't have a trailer to go to PDR.
Yeah, and I might try to foster that, whether it's with Tyler or something at some point. But we do that a lot with NHRA, with them having like 5 divisions. We have, or there might be more, but we have racers in every division, and somebody that's there supporting with brake pads and rotors and the stuff that you need to make it through a race weekend. And eventually, one of my goals is to get back to the point where we have support trailers for Mark Williams and all that stuff. Probably won't happen until next year, but we'll see what happens.
That's a whole nother monster.
Yeah, honestly, it's if you look at what some of these, I think Rossler and M&M, and I don't know who else does it, but like those guys just showing up to races, rebuilding transmissions, like that's a lifestyle, man. You got to find the right people to do that. So
it's like the tire guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mickey's got the same tire guys. Chris is at every time we turn, he's at every race, and it's like, do you ever go home? He's like, yeah, for a day or two.
Yeah,
they don't let you fly. He's like, no, I got to ride in the rig, and I'm like, oh God, at least they can let you fly. You know what I mean?
I feel like those guys don't get enough credit for what they do because they're definitely hard workers and committed to it all.
Yeah, and everybody's they just really work on everybody's rim and tire, whether it's missing washers, nuts, bolts. Right, here you go, change them for me.
Exactly.
All beat up and bent, and you know what I mean. So they get carbon dust dust all over their shit. You know what I mean?
Oh,
yeah, they work hard at it. We just did a Mickey tire test, and if they didn't have 300 pairs of tires sitting out in Orlando, they didn't have 50, and it just changing tires and tires. We put 4 different tires on the dragster and 3 on my car in 2 days, and there was probably 20 cars there testing, and they just whipping out tires and tires and tires. Hit, make a lick, change this. All right, another set of rims. Want to put another set of tires on, and them guys and girls, they just didn't stop.
Yeah, they're definitely committed.
And you notice it more when you're at a tire test because that's all you're doing is tire testing.
Yeah.
How much do they do when there's 300-400 cars there, and you're not really paying attention to them, right? And
all you gotta do is watch the golf carts go by with new tires. You're like, oh, they're working hard.
All right. How much money is that? It's $1,000 every time a golf cart goes by.
Yep.
So,
sure.
but that should, if you needed it, I'm sure we could find somebody that is willing to work with you to move stuff around if you had to.
I appreciate it.
Set up shop. Clayton did it with us for a bit at Chassis. He did it with us for a bit, and then now he's just at IHRA all the time with Mountain Motor Pro Stock. So, but we used to haul a bunch of shit around. Hopefully, if you needed it, and just ask, Doug. I mean, if you ask, it'll get answered.
Yeah.
You got anything else, Chris?
No, that's about it. Just appreciation, and we're looking forward to, trying to support you in return.
Yeah.
It's going to be an exciting year of racing. I think our car count's going to be up, and hopefully with what we are doing to turn the class around, or intentions of turning the class around, and your involvement, maybe we can even get back at the Winter Series this next year. So
Yeah.
Yes.
it'll be exciting.
Can you get us back in the Winter Series? Me and Patrick, like it's our home track.
I'll put in a good word. I can't make any promises, but I definitely like to see you guys back there. That's cool. Especially
It was like, what do we have? Like 4 weeks before we were going to go, Patrick, and Victor said, "Nope, not happening." I'm like, "Oh, you're kidding me? What do you mean?"
Well, in all fairness, we didn't
No.
really show up and support and represent. We had 7 cars show up for the last one, and they're all from Florida. So we got to put a little pressure on everybody else to do their part too. And I think the tracks will respond wherever the action's at.
Yeah, I think, they're looking for car count, and, unfortunately, the Winter Series gives us the time to race when nobody's racing, but unfortunately, not everybody's got the budget to get there. And so I think if we work on the car count and get people committed, I don't know how they could say no.
There you go. There it is, guys. Come on.
Right? No pressure. No pressure from the sponsor.
No pressure.
Whatsoever.
Pressure.
Hey, sir. We don't want to keep you much more. We know you still have a busy day today. Thank you very much for joining us and answering the questions. Make sure you let us know how we can help you grow this, because it's important. We'll make sure we have Mark Williams up here on the thing for us.
Very cool.
Because it's a very meaningful for us that
Yes.
you came on board. And if you want us to tag, we're gonna make sure everybody. I don't know if you've seen our posts, but we'll make sure everybody tags, shares, posts. Anytime you produce something unique or special, especially something that's gonna be lightweight and useful for us 632 guys, share it to us. We'll make sure we post it as much as possible and try to get as much feedback for you that we can.
Yeah, no, and that's a good point, because social media is the freest way to get exposure. And we've been, if you watch the Mark Williams page, again, that's something I do most of myself in my free time. But that exposure is free. It's easy. And if you guys have parts or get parts, whatever, just tag us, and we'd love to share it and show people what you guys have and all the unique combinations. So,
hey, you heard him. Hey, if you got your parts, your Mark Williams stuff, Rife, whatever else too, because it's part holistically. Tag them, let them see it, show your support. We greatly appreciate it. Anybody else got anything going around the corner room real quick?
Yeah, but I just heard Doug say, "Show us your rear end." That's it.
none of you guys.
I want to give a shout out to Tyler. Thank you for his effort for sealing the deal with you to get us a sponsor, and obviously Procom's ELS for the show. And what else we can do? You know what I mean? For help you, for helping us, man. Greatly appreciate it.
Like you said, Tyler's a man. He's unsung hero a lot of times, so I appreciate it. And thanks for having me on, guys.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.